Hello everyone, John here with WebDev for you, here to help you build awesome websites without code using Webflow. For anyone who's new here, I do these live streams every Monday through Thursday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Central, and we cover everything Webflow, from building websites and layouts in Webflow to creating animations and interactions in Webflow. And I also provide support via the YouTube Super Chat feature. So if you need help with your personal project, feel free to drop a message or a Super Chat, and I'll be happy to help with your site. Okay, so this is the agenda for today from 12 p.m. to 12:30. We're going to continue building the website that we started yesterday using the client-first style system. Then from 12:30 to 12:40, I'll be fielding any questions about this build, about the recent build. And then from 12:40 to 1 p.m., we are going to have a general Webflow discussion, and I'll field any super chats in the chat room, or in the chat box here. Okay, so that's the agenda. Let's go ahead and get started. And welcome everyone. Sorry I was a bit late. I was having some technical difficulties with some of this YouTube streaming technology, but yeah. Well, we started pretty much at 12, so looks good. All right, so this is the website we started building yesterday. This is the Figma file we're using to build the website, and we're using the client-first style system from Finsweet. So the purpose of building the site with this client-first system is to first see if it's a good system that we want to use, and just second would be to get comfortable with the system and to understand how it works. So I've been working with it this week, and my mind has changed a bit since my first initial idea or thought about it. I'm kind of, I don't know if I want to lean towards liking it, because I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. It's still, maybe I can put it this way, like I can see the value of it now. You know, as before I didn't see the value of it, now I do. And that in a sense feels good, because, you know, you do want to try something before you prejudge it, I guess. So yeah, so we'll be working with the site today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And hello Manuel, welcome. And yeah, let's just continue building. So we're going to build out this section. So this first hero section is pretty much done. We can add this border here at the bottom, and this border color is DEDE. So I'll just select let's see what I want to select here, the nav component, and I'll add a border to the bottom. Let me minimize this bar here, and oops, okay, double click this, and I'll click the bottom border here. I'll select the solid border, and we'll change the color to DEDE. Actually, let's pick a color from our color palette. Let's do this beige. No, that doesn't look good on the white. Maybe the blue? Yeah, we'll do blue. Okay, so let's go on to the next section, which is so that's the header. This is the About Us section. Okay, so I'll go into Webflow, and again I'll quickly review the structure of the client-first system. So it starts with the page wrapper, then we have components. So this is a nav component, and this is just using the recommended naming convention from the client-first system. And then we have the padding. So with client first, you add padding and margin to a parent element. You don't add it to the actual element, which is, to me, one of the biggest changes when I'm using the system. I've never added a parent element just to add padding or margin. I usually add it to a wrapper or something like that. So, hey Yvonne, hey Dylan, hello. Yvonne just said, I just jumped off a gather with Finsweet. Their design system is getting a lot of attention from a variety of designers, freelancers, and in-house. Very cool. So yeah, I think Finsweet did a good job here. They definitely filled a need, I feel, for designers. Because I don't know many other design agencies or companies like Finsweet that have created a class system. Maybe there's a few other ones, but I know, for example, my wife here, she works in Webflow, and one of her biggest questions is like, how do I name classes, or what's the best way to structure my website? And she's gotten pretty proficient at Webflow, but she still wants to know what's the best way to structure a site or name classes. And obviously, like, Webflow does a good job with saying, start with sections, then containers, and then div blocks inside of containers. But as far as like naming classes and having a clear guide to how to do it, I don't think there's much out there. So Finsweet definitely filled a need, I think, that a lot of designers and developers wanted. So personally for me, just because I've been using Webflow for a while, I do have my own kind of design system and methods of how I build. And it's pretty straightforward. I use sections, containers, and wrappers. I use wrappers a lot. So if you've seen my live streams, you see that I add wrappers pretty much to a lot of my elements. So yeah, with that said, I think all of this is helping Webflow go in the right direction, right? Like, everyone who develops and designs wants some structure to what they do, right? Nobody got into web design or was born knowing web design and development. So Webflow facilitates the ability to develop a site, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't practice web design and development best practices. So right, like, just because we have an iPad and we can draw with a pen doesn't mean we're artists right away, right? Like, artists spend time with their craft and they have their organization. Same with web design. Just because we have this really powerful tool to develop a site without code doesn't mean we still shouldn't use web design and development best practices. So all of this, I think, is just helping visual developers and designers have some notion or some idea of what developers actually think about when developing a site. They think about class names. They think about how elements are inside of other elements. They think about margin padding. So yeah, so even though it's no code, doesn't mean it's no code. Like, that's the paradox, I guess, because we want these powerful tools to help us build faster, but doesn't mean we need to take shortcuts in every aspect of it, right? And the more you know about development, the more powerful Webflow actually becomes. So yeah. Great. So Dylan sent me a super chat. Thank you, Dylan. Much appreciated. We'll get to it around 12:35. Okay, so that was my rant for the day. Let's continue with the build. So yeah, we have the main wrapper, then we have the section. So Finsweet recommends, for every section, starting with section dash and then the section keyword, if I can put it that way. So it's the home header, and then you add the padding, then we add the container, and then we add padding within the container, and then I added margin to the heading, the H1 heading, and the margin to the paragraph, and I didn't add margin to the button, but we might do that maybe. And we went through the style system, the style guide. So it's great that Finsweet provided the style guide because it made it really easy to update the styles to match what I wanted for this site. Okay, so that was a long-winded intro prior to building this About Us section, so let's get into it. So we have this section, so let's add another section. I'll go ahead and add a section, and I'm going to call this section About Us. And again, if we go into the classes section, we can see the structure, right? The structure is right here: main wrapper, section, page padding, container, so on and so forth. So Yvonne wrote, I tried Hatch by Flamingo too, but I feel client first is easier to grasp and apply. Thanks for mentioning that, Yvonne, because I actually thought about, I didn't remember the word of it, but I knew Flamingo was, there was another design system out there, and I think I was thinking of Flamingo. So yeah, I mean, Yvonne, we have some direct experience here, and he says client first is easier to grasp. So cool. And maybe we'll get into Flamingo just to see it. I might check it out. But if you haven't seen the live stream from yesterday, Yvonne has worked a lot with the client first system, and he's built some really cool stuff. So we have the About Us section, and oh, Pavish, hello. Yeah, you sent me the super chat yesterday. Super chats I'm going to be covering from 12:30, around 12:40 to 1. So I have you in mind. Don't worry. We are going to get to your question. Okay, so we have the About Us section. Cool. So let's take a look, and then we want to add some padding. So for all sections, I'm going to add the same padding just so it's uniform. So I'll add a div block in here, and I'll call this padding extra large. Okay. And then we have a few components in here. We have this left component and we have this right component. So I'll add a div block, and I'll call this, what would I call this? So I would say about -us _ left, something like this. And let me bring up an example site just so I can follow this clearly. Hey Rashid, how's it going? But yeah, I think that's fine. Or I got a better one. About Us content left. That's better. Content left. Okay, so we have the keyword, which is About Us, and then _ content left. Okay. All right, so this is where it gets tricky, and this is, no, I guess it's not that tricky. So what I'll do in here is I'll add a div block, and I'll say about -us content wrapper, and then I'll set this to flex, and I'll say horizontal, align, stretch, and justify start, and then I'll place this About Us content in here, and let me see here. Yeah, it looks good, and I might do something like 30% for this one, so 30%. And then I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to say About Us content right. And I'll say 70% for this. Okay, so we have those two components, and this will be, I'll just give it a height of 700 just to match this here. So we'll say height 700 pixels, and I'll give it a border radius of, let's see what the border radius is here. It says mixed. It'll just give me some idea. All right, so I'm just gonna say 30 maybe. And let's set the background to this. Let's go ahead and find an image actually. So I'll go to Unsplash, and actually I do have because this is a design agency, so maybe I'll do something like, what's the topic of this? Oh, interior design. Interior design, yeah. This is nice. I'll do this one. And let me show it in the Finder. Let me see how large it is. 2 megabytes is too big, so let's resize it. And I'll resize it to maybe like 1500. Yeah, still a bit big, but here I'll just, this is always a good practice, is to compress your images so they're not super large. So compressedjpeg.com is a good site for this. And right now the image is at around 700 kilobytes, and let's see how quickly, or by how much we can reduce it. By 22%. So let's see, get info. Yeah, 400 kilobytes isn't too bad. All right, so let me add this to the assets panel. And then I will make this the background. Set it to cover and center, and boom, looks good. I might set this content left to 40%, and this content right would be 60%. Okay, that looks good. And now we have, this would be an H2 because this is our H1. So yeah, let's go ahead and create this. I feel like there should be icons here, but there isn't, so that's fine. So let's add the heading. I'm going to, first I feel like I'm gonna need to add some padding. So I'm gonna add a div block, and I'm gonna say padding, let's do padding large, which is 3 rem, okay. And I'll add the heading, we'll make it H2, and I'll grab this text. That looks great. Then we have some paragraphs, and let's go ahead and add that. So we have a paragraph, and we have a couple paragraphs here, 2 paragraphs. And I'll just copy this text. And this text. And we're going to need some margin to this. So yeah, this is where we have to add more div blocks to each element, basically, to each text element. And yeah, I guess I'll do it here too. Yeah, I don't know if this happens to you guys sometimes, but like when I'm working with nesting elements, sometimes Webflow will do a bit of a weird thing here. Or makes it difficult to nest elements. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have these div blocks. Let me minimize this here, actually, this nav component. All right, so we have these div blocks and we want to apply margin to them. So I'm gonna say margin, and just to the bottom actually, so margin bottom, and then I'm gonna say margin, let's try margin medium. Yeah, that looks good. Div block, margin bottom, and I will say margin small probably for this. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, and then this one would be margin large. Thank you, Rashid. I knew I was forgetting something, actually. Something felt. So Rashid just let me know that I'm missing the container, which was a great call. And to the container, we're going to use the same container we used up here, which is container large. Excellent, thank you. We can see that nice alignment there. So anytime you're building a site, you do want some nice alignment. It just makes everything feel and look more unified. Okay, so margin bottom, and then this one I'm going to say margin bottom. And we're going to do margin large. All right, so now we have these kind of list items. Okay, so this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a component, and we're going to have wrappers in it. So this is going to be, I guess I'll call it about us list. So I'll add a div block. Yeah, padding large. Okay, div block, and I will call this about dash us underscore list. Okay, and then in here, let's see, about us content, right? Is this in the content? Yeah, okay. So this should have padding as well. All right, let's continue. And then I'll say, I'll add a div block, and I'll call this about dash us underscore list item. This will have a position of flex, horizontal and vertical. So this might be a good opportunity to use icons, because I know in the Finsweet system they have some useful globals or some icons right here, useful icon classes. So we'll use that. So maybe I'll find an icon. So Yvonne writes, I like to add class page padding to a div inside the section div. The class has default padding of 2.5 rem, left plus right. I changed it to 10 VW or lower depending on the layout, like T-Rex padding. Genius. Yvonne, me and you are on a very similar page because I like using VW for my padding as well. So yeah, great stuff. So this is where it gets interesting, and I think Yvonne is thinking a little bit outside of the box here. And I was trying to maybe stay away from changing the client first values because I'm trying to stay true to the system initially. But if you're like Yvonne and you've used the system and you're comfortable with it and you're comfortable with changing the values, that could be a good a way to go. But then this is where for me it's like, if you're sharing your project with a client, then you have to explain that to the client, like, hey, I changed the rem value to VW. But if you're the only one working on the project, then that's fine, right? Like, you're the only one who knows about it, and that's the most important part, because you're the one building it. But yeah, Yvonne, that's something I like to do as well. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if I'll be using the system myself, and maybe I'll take bits and pieces from it and things I've learned from it. But like I mentioned earlier, I've already kind of formulated a specific design system that I like using. And the one thing that I'll always mention is you always want to start your website with a style guide. No matter what design system you're using, start with a style guide, right? So that's what I found really great about Client First initially. Like, they have a style guide, right? Like, I can go in here and see what all my headings look like, what all the classes look like, paragraphs, text classes, text weights. Rich text is a great way to see how your elements will look in the hierarchy of headings. Global classes, color palette, so I can create global classes. Buttons, I can style quickly here, and so on and so forth. So yeah, just went on a tangent again, but let's finish this list item, and that might be what we build for today. I'm going to go ahead and try to find a cool icon. So let me go to Envato Elements. And if you're not subscribed to Envato Elements, I highly recommend it. They have ton of design resources that I would recommend. Yeah. So just gonna find some icons that I can drag and drop quickly into Webflow. I know you can't see it, but I'm just trying to find something quick here. Yeah, sure, I'll use this, even though the colors are different, but all right. And maybe there's icons here. No, okay. All right, so let's see. Gonna find what I just downloaded. And oh, no. I never like when they don't include, they don't include icons in this template. Okay, bear with me for a sec while I find, you know what, instead of that, let me just add a circle, right? Just so I don't kind of waste time here trying to find an icon. We'll just add a circle instead of an icon. So we have the list item. I'm going to go ahead and add a div block in here. And to the list item, I'm going to give it a position. Yeah, I'm going to see if this works out well. I think it will. Yeah. So about us, list item, div block, or the list item, I'm going to say flex, align, stretch, justify, start. Then I'll add a div block. I'll call this about -us icon _ icon. And let's make it 50 by 50. And then I'll set the border radius to 50%. And we'll just use this color here. Okay, so let's pretend that's the icon. And then I'll add the about, or I'll add a div block, and I'll call this about us _ list - content. And let's look at the Figma file. So we have, I'm going to call this a text block. It's not really a heading. So I will add a text block, and let's take a look at the client first text classes just to see what we can do here. Okay, so we have bold. Okay, so I want it to be bold, so I'm going to use this here. So I'll add a text block, and I'm going to type in surface area, and we're going to give it the class name text weight bold. Okay, that worked out well. So it assigned the bold text. So what I would have to do, because this is still using the system UI and we're using enter for the text on the site, Rashid wrote, T-Rex uses Ems rather than Rems, and what you think, which way is better to use in the website, Ems or Rems? So that's a good question, Rashid. The client first system just uses Rems throughout the entire build. And Ems is specific to the parent element's font size, or yeah, the parent element's font size. So in the client first, they're just using the root font size, which is 16 pixels. So every element is just based off that 16 pixels, right? If we go into the sizes, it kind of explains that in more detail. They're using the 4-point system in Rem. And in that sense, I feel like Rems works better here because you don't have to worry about the parent element font size. And if you did, that might make things more difficult to to understand as far as like setting specific sizes to different elements and fonts. With the Timothy Ricks method, the wizardry method, I think it made sense to use Ems instead of Rems, because the Ems were based off the body VW unit. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't think it's a cut and dry answer. I think it's like, it depends on what design system you're using and what works best for that specific design system or that specific build you're working on. Okay, so back to this. I do want to change the bold text to enter. So for text weight, I'm gonna select them and I'm gonna go ahead and start modifying. That's one thing I didn't want to do, is like really modify a lot of this, but I'm gonna have to because I'm not using system UI for my text, right? So I'm using enter. So I'm gonna go in here and just change it all to enter, and that's fine. So I think, the client first system is intended to be adjusted a bit, but you don't want to adjust like the values of the padding and stuff, because I think that would defeat the purpose. Okay, so now it should be enter, and yes it is. Great. All right, so we have surface area. So in the content, I'm going to add a paragraph, and just going to copy this paragraph here. Nice. Thanks, Rashid. I'm going to paste that in here, and perfect. And I might add a max width to this paragraph. So paragraph, this could be a text. No, it's kind of a paragraph. I was thinking it could be a text block as well. Yeah, that's fine. I always, sometimes if the text is really short, I think about adding a text block, but I'm going to leave it as paragraph here because it does kind of describe something. So I'm going to say max width, and these are always the little nuances of building. So max width medium. No, let's do, oops, sorry about that. Max width medium. Just max width small, excuse me. There we go. And now that's too small. Okay. I guess we're gonna have to go with medium. Yeah, this is the flexibility I was talking about that I'm not a fan of. Like, I'm so used to just eyeballing and seeing what I like as far as width of things, but I don't want to play with these values here. So Pablo wrote, Rems is more convenient for accessibility. Visually impaired users tend to increase the default font size of their browsers. So for that reason, Rems is used to adjust the user's browser's font size. Nice. Thank you, Pablo. Great point. Yeah, that's cool. Cool point. I did read an article saying like something about how we do resize our browsers, but I don't want to get into that kind of discussion right now because I think there's a lot to it, but I think that's the overall general idea of why Rems are better. All right, so about list item, I'm going to align center actually here, so this icon is centered. And then to this about us icon, I'm going to wrap it in a div and place it in here, and then I'm going to give some margin to the right of it. So margin right, and I'm going to say margin medium. Okay, that's not bad. I'm wondering why the padding, oh, wait a sec. About us content right has padding. Padding large. Oh, yeah, I need to put this in here. No, wait a second. Margin bottom. Yeah, this would need to go in there. Okay, perfect. That's what I was kind of confused about initially. Yeah, the layout's looking quite nice, if I might say so myself. We do want to add some margin to the title. So let's do, yeah, and this is where for me, I would actually give this a custom title, right? Like now when I look at this, all it is text weight bold. And I guess that works if I use this again on another part of the site, but yeah, I don't know. Never mind, that was just a little thought there. Yeah, I'll add a div block here. And I'll put this in here and I'll say margin, and we'll get to your question, Pavish, don't worry. Margin bottom, and we'll say margin small. Okay, great. See, and that's almost too much margin now. Or is it? Let me see. Yeah, it's all right. It feels, is there another margin that's like extra small? Let's try extra small. Margin extra small. Okay, yeah, that works. Extra small is better. Cool. So now I just have to copy and paste this 3 times. You can use classes textile 2 lines or textiles 3 lines. These classes set width based on the total lines of text. Great. Thank you for that, Yvonne. So let's try that. Let's do text style. Let's try 2 lines. That didn't do anything. Let me see. Text style 3 lines. So what is it? Is it just changing the line height? It might just be changing the line height. No. Text style. Two lines. No, I don't see any width applied to this. Let's go in here. Text style. Apply quotes after 2 lines of text. Apply quotes after 3 lines of text. Okay, I don't think that's what I'm looking for here, Yvonne. So I'm just gonna change it back to max width medium. Yeah, 32 rem. Okay. So yeah, I'll just copy and paste these list items 3 times. So actually, prior to doing that, I'm gonna have to give them a margin. So I'm gonna have to add another div and place it in here and say margin. So this is where, to me, it gets tedious because I'm adding divs, and I could have just added some margin to the bottom of this list item and would have been okay. So say margin small, and now I can just copy this, and I would say, let me undo that, remove margin medium. Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, I think we're done with this section. Let's check out the responsiveness. So here for the flex, for the content wrapper, I just set it to vertical, and I would change the height of this image to maybe 400 and 100%. And the same for this content, I would say 100%, and bam. And I might put the image at the bottom, so I would select the content wrapper, or select this image, and I would, for alignment and order, I would say last, and put the image on the bottom, because I feel the user would probably want to read some text first, or yes, I guess that's just a design decision. Yeah, and then, yeah, the responsiveness is not bad, and I would change the about list item to vertical, and yeah, and I would want to add some margin. Oh, so this is where, to me, it's just like, wow, okay, I want to add some margin to the bottom of this, but I've already added a margin right to this, so I'm not loving that. So I guess for this list content, I would just add some margin to the top, because it's a component, or to the icon, I could add some margin to the bottom, right? Because we don't want to mess with the preset classes. And yeah, we would want to center this. Oops. So we'll just do flex vertical center, and I might make this text. No, I've already added a class to this. So I would do is mobile and center, and do it for this too. Is dash mobile is dash mobile. Okay, does that look centered? Something feels off. I guess it is centered. No, the circle, oh, because it has a margin right to it. So margin right, I guess I would have to add is mobile here and say 0. Margin right is mobile. Is dash mobile. Okay, yeah, all right. Sorry, it's just little things like that that I'm like, okay. Cool. Yeah, usually when I make things responsive, I feel like I have a much easier time just accessing elements and, you know, moving things around. And then this content left, I would change the image to like 300, make it a little bit smaller. And I would want to change the padding for mobile. Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, desktop. So I guess they've already done that. So Yvonne, this is where I think me and you are on the same page, because on mobile, I don't like that much padding on my mobile sites. I guess it looks okay, but there's just not that much real estate on mobile. So I like using as much as I can. So I like setting 5 VW of padding on mobile. And 5 VW, this looks like a lot more than 5 VW. And we also have padding to this. So I guess I could do like padding large is dash mobile and remove all the padding, set it to 0. You know, that still feels like a lot of padding to me. Yeah, those are the little things that I'm not quite sure about, because you start getting into responsive design and you start getting into the weeds of like adding combo classes and changing things, and then I start to think like, how much is this really for clients? Like, a client's gonna have to know about that. Like, if I'm applying a combo class to mobile and adjusting just that combo class, like the nuances get really subtle and detailed, and working with a system where you're adding div classes and not applying styles to specific components directly, and you're adding parent elements to add margin and padding. Like, again, I do think it does take practice. Maybe after a while it's like, okay, this is how it works or whatever, but these are all things like, if you and your client want to be on the same page, like these nuances would have to be communicated. So yeah, just a, you know, a thing there. So I want more margin on here, like more spacing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go in here and add a div block and go to the margin, the about us content left. And what just happened? Okay, so I have, oh man, okay. Padding large. Okay, let me undo adding that div block. Yeah, because I want it to be 40%, but if I add it in a div block, it's not going to be 40%. About us content left. So I guess I have to add a div block in here. And I have to say about us underscore background image. Okay. And then in here is where I'll add a div block. And I would say margin right, maybe even padding, margin right. Okay, margin right, margin medium. But that's not exactly what I want, but okay, or maybe would I apply margin left here? That might be the way to go. About us background. So I would remove the background image from here and just add it to and I would say margin rate, and I would say 100% to this height. No, okay. So I would have to add the 700 pixels to this. And okay, I'll read your what you wrote in a second here. And let me remove this background color. Okay, so all that just to add a bit of margin. So as a calculator to help transfer pixel measurements to Rem, the calculator is located under dock sizes. Once I started using the page padding, I was able to control the spacing per breakpoint. Oh, cool. Sounds good. So yeah, I guess you're customizing the design system quite a bit then, Yvonne. I was just trying to stick to the default values that they've added here without changing anything, but that might be a bit difficult. All right, so I think we're done with this section. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, all right, so I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit here on tablet. And then we're gonna call it a day. And the height, so here, but I don't want margin on, so here I would say is dash mobile. Okay, good. I would have to do it for tablet as well. All right, cool. So not bad, we're getting through it. Thanks everyone for your patience. You know, this is an interesting exercise to go through, just to get familiar with client first. And Yvonne, I appreciate all of your input. So once I use page padding, I was able to control the spacing per breakpoint. Yeah, okay, so I don't know if you're using combo classes, Yvonne, to change the padding, or if you're just adjusting the padding on the default client first classes. Let me know how much customization you're doing on these classes, because initially my idea was that you wouldn't change these values, but maybe designers are doing this quite a bit with the system. You know, initially I thought you wouldn't want to change the values because you want, if your client checks out the documentation, or if you and your client want to get on the same page, you probably want to stick to these values. But again, maybe that's not possible for the specific style of the site unless you're using custom classes. So all right, yeah, let's get into super chats. Thanks everyone for your patience. That's going to be it for today's build. I went over the 30 minutes. So let me get to Pavish's super chat from yesterday. Pavish, you asked about smooth scrolling. You asked, how can I achieve smooth scrolling in Webflow? I'm not sure you can do that without a script. So there is a good script that I would recommend. And let me just see if there are other ways of adding smooth scrolling. Yeah, lugsy.js is a common one that's used, but I think you wanted to use something else besides lugsy.js. Let's see, there is, I think, I might be thinking of Lugsy again, but is it Lugsy or Luxy? Luxy, Luxy. Yeah, there's this one. It's called Locomotive Scroll. This is another script that allows for smooth scrolling, and it has some really nice features in it. So you might want to play with that. But because Lugsy is like the most used one, lugsy.js, let's just do that. Lugsy. If I can find it. All right, so it's a Flowbase has a nice article on it and a nice site, but I want the actual script. Luxy. So let's get the script from JSDeliver, and I have used this before. Yeah, and lugsy.js. Here it is. And do they have a website? They should have a website. Copy. And I'll just go, let's do it on this site. And I'll just paste, nope. We want to get the HTML output, copy. Okay, now we have that. So Lugsy, let me try to find here. luxy.js script. Yeah, here it is. That's a weird URL. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay, yeah, so do you add a combo class, Yvonne? That's what I'm curious about. So all we have to do is this, script, lugsy. Yeah, so script. I think I've already copied the script tag, yeah. I don't know if we need this char set, UTF-8, character set. And I think that might just give us some smooth scrolling. Flaticon, thank you. Or Flatcoon. And let's change the inertia, scroll speed. Oh, I'd have to add it to the ID lugsy to the body, I think. Oh, no, to the page wrapper, excuse me. So luxy, we're going to add that ID because that's the ID that it's telling me to call. Let's see if I can tell the difference. Yep. All right, so I don't know if you can tell, but now I have some pretty smooth scrolling. Just to hit this home a bit more, let's add a div block in the page wrapper and set it to 300. So I'm going to use height wrapper 300 VH. Okay, so now we have a lot of space down here, and we're going to see some smooth scrolling. Okay, so Ivan says he does use combo classes if he finds himself using all of the custom classes, custom -1 classes. All right. Excuse me. All right, so that's how you add smooth scrolling, Pavish. Hopefully that helps. You do need to use a script, but it can be quite nice, and you can change some of the values So I can go in here and say, let's see if they have the script. So options, right? So wrapper, we got that. Luxy, targets. We don't have any parallax, so wrapper speed. So I would go in here and into the code, and I would add some open curly brackets, close curly brackets to add some parameters. And I would say wrapper speed colon 0.8. Let's see how that works. 0.08. I'm just testing. I haven't worked with the script before really, so I don't know what the different values do, but that just gives you an idea of what could be possible. And let's see here. Yeah, that just removes some of the inertia, I feel. So I would do, what does 0.8 do? Maybe it gets a little bit wonky. But yeah, I would just play with this, play with the different values to get some smooth scrolling. And yeah, it's a pretty basic script. Yeah, it's a bit smoother. 0.8 is quite nice. Ooh, I kind of like 0.8. John, can you apply the script to the global embed or only to the body of the page? You can't add an ID to the body here, Yvonne. So I would just add it to the page wrapper because we can add the ID LUXY. Not sure what you mean by the global embed, if you mean this. Yeah, and I haven't played with it. I don't know if I would, if you could attach it to the HTML root div or the body. Maybe you could do that, but yeah, it's just a matter of playing around with the script. Again, I haven't used it much, but because we have a page wrapper, it's the same difference or the same thing. You could just, everything's in this wrapper, so just apply LUXY to the wrapper, add the script. You know, I'm using JS deliver. You know, you can just type in LUXY and .js, JS deliver, get it here, get this minified code, show and configure all links, HTML output, copy the link here, go into Webflow, paste that link, then initiate it with luxy.init and this piece of code here, and there's just a few parameters that you can use right here. Okay, so I do want to get to Dylan's super chat, so let's go, let me check out the email. And form submission. I thought, okay, Dylan, I thought I'd be able to send an attachment, but I will try to describe as much as I can. So if you could right click and inspect this link in mobile view, what I'm looking to build is the product pictures with the circles below and the arrows so that you can't see the additional products, but you can tell how many there are because of the circles. Also, you can scroll through the images by sliding the image or using the arrows. Okay, let me take a look. That's a lot to grasp, but let's take a look here. So yeah, Dylan, with some of these PNG images, I'd probably try to add borders to the images via CSS because that looks a bit rasterized. So we resized this, and so you're just interested on mobile. Okay, so let me look at the question. And let me see here. All right, let's see. So I thought I'd be able to send an attachment. I'll try to describe as much as I can. So you could right click and inspect this link in mobile view. What I'm looking to build is the product pictures with the circles below the arrows, so you can't see the additional products, but you can tell how many there are because of the circles. with the circles below the arrows, so that you can't see the additional products, but you can tell how many. Wait, so you can't see the additional products, but you can tell how many there are because of the circles. Also, you can scroll through the images by sliding the image or using the arrows. Corduroy jacket. Is this a Webflow site, Dylan? No, it's a Shopify site. Yeah, this is Shopify, Dylan. I don't know if I can help you with a Shopify site. Just verify that. But you can't see the additional images of that product, only the circles. So you have the main image. Yeah, this is Shopify. Shopify. It seems custom though. I think they might have built it and transferred it to Shopify using Udesly. Yeah, I don't know if I can assist with that. That's really in the weeds. I mean, you can add a slider in Webflow and have a series of images. You know, maybe that's what you're looking for. And you can have button variants. I would recommend, Dylan, going to, you know, watching the Webflow slider video. So Webflow slider, and we can't use images from the product collection list in the slider, but you could just create a custom slider and add images, but then it would be on every page, so that might not work. Or you could add multiple images to the products collection. I think you can add multiple images and then reference each image individually from the slide. And then I would look up for product variants, Webflow. I would look at this, create product variants, and you can wait, hold on. You can make the variant selector, variant button selector, Webflow. Yeah, so, you know, create new product shopping experiences with the variant selector buttons. And yeah, you can, you know, how this site shows, you can have buttons like this. So that's definitely achievable. So yeah, I would just look into that, Dylan. Try messing with it, the slider and the variant buttons in Webflow. If you need help with this, let me know. And actually, maybe I can showcase it really quick. Let me start a new site in Webflow. Or actually, let me use the free Webflow e-commerce template. Right here, and you can just let's see, they should have a free one. free. Okay, free. Here we go. Store starter, use for free, create site. All right, and we'll go to the products template page, and here for the buttons, you can just go to element settings, or you want to select the option element here. And here for the variant selector, rather than select, you can say buttons, and just like that, you can have buttons to your product, and you can style them to look like this. You could, set the border radius. You can say product button or variant button. Set the border radius to like 50 to make it round. And yeah. So hopefully that helps. You do want to select option right here or option list. Go to element settings and you can change it from select to buttons.